Need a little luxury in your life? That's why I recently treated myself to a staycation at the Inn at 500 Capital. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a special celebration, or just a break from routine, you're going to love their Four Diamond Boutique experience with gorgeous rooms, penthouses, and suites right in the heart of downtown Boise. You'll be greeted with a complimentary drink on arrival, have access to free shuttle service, and even your pet is welcome. And here's an insider tip: book more than one night and save with their weekend escape rate. Book your stay now at inat500.com. Today on CityCast Boise. Last year, more local breweries closed than opened, and even the heavy hitters are changing strategies to stay afloat. Was the market oversaturated? And what do Trump's new tariffs mean for the future of Idaho beer? We're tapping into this industry's reckoning and who's still raising a glass to the future. It's Tuesday, March 25th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Today, I'm talking with Steve Kuntz, host of the Idaho Booze podcast. Thanks so much for coming on CityCast, Steve.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I wanted to have you on and talk with you because you're really tapped in to the local craft beer scene. I love a good pun. But besides having a podcast, Idaho Booze, you also used to work for Edge Brewing. And you've said that there's a reckoning going on in the brewing market. What does that mean?
So, right now we're seeing for the first year in forever, in like 30 years or something, we had more breweries actually close than open in Idaho, which is a really huge deal because it hasn't happened in a long time. So what's going on? A lot of people like to say there's like a bubble or, things are bursting, stuff like that. But if that were the case, then we would see, layers upon layers of local beers on the store shelves instead of like a huge, massive influx of all these other breweries coming into Boise, which has happened the last like 5 or 6 years, really kind of dramatically increased. So it's not really a bubble because people love beer and people are still buying beer, but they aren't buying some of the local beer. So what happened? That's kind of where I caught with the reckoning. Whereas with a bubble bursting, you would see it on all the shelves. There wouldn't be any craft beer, or there would be less craft beer or whatever. With a reckoning, what's actually happening are breweries that opened or wineries or whatever that opened that did not set themselves up necessarily for future success. And it's not necessarily, I'm not saying it's like their fault, like they did anything wrong. But what I'm saying is they didn't really think out maybe 5 or 10 years into the future. Maybe they just had a 1 or 2 year business plan or 3 year business plan, whatever it was. So I look at it as more of a reckoning, less of a bubble bursting.
And how long would you say that this reckoning has been building, and what all is contributing to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been 2 years, basically, 3 years maybe, but the way it had been was a lot of these breweries that closed, the reason why they had such a hard time coming into the last couple of years was because they actually didn't make enough beer.
Really?
Yeah, Lindsay, the one constant we all have is time, right? So they would spend their time brewing, let's say 60 gallons or 90 gallons instead of brewing like 300 gallons, because brewing beer, it takes the same amount of time. If you do a home brew at home and you make 5 gallons of beer, it'll take you about 6 hours, 6.5 hours. If you do a brew on a 10 barrel system, let's say at Sockeye or anywhere else that has like a big system like that, Sockeye probably has like a 30 barrel system, but it'll take 6 hours. And if you do it on a system where you can only brew 60 gallons of beer, it'll take 6 hours. So if you're behind the 8 ball as far as product goes, you're going to have a hard time matching whatever demand is out there because you just can't make enough beer to match that demand.
And you mentioned a time frame, maybe 2 or 3 years, that this reckoning has been building. How much of an impact did the pandemic have potentially on this reckoning, or was that a factor at all?
Yeah, it's interesting. The breweries that I've talked to, so like Lost Grove, I had them on recently. I had Jake Black on. He was really good. I talked to Bree Hovley from Barbarian, and they all adapted during the pandemic. Like the pandemic came, and what sucks for Bree, for instance, and for Jake both, actually, neither one of them had any beer in package. They didn't have any cans. They didn't have any bottles. Really, Barbarian had a few, but Jake had built his brewery to be a local, regional, on-tap brewery. So he would just sell kegs to local bars and restaurants. Well, pandemic came and we couldn't go to bars and restaurants, right? In Idaho, I think it was like 6 or 8 months. That's a long, long time. So what did they do? Jake went out and got a canner. He started canning beer. He quickly got it into grocery stores and he quickly started selling. He adapted and was agile enough to move and do something different. Same with Brie. They went out and got a little canner. They started canning more beer. They started doing more things like delivery. I think they were able to do pickup. I think people could come and pick it up. They were doing more like growler fills and stuff like that. So you really have to, with something like that, I think it's more the breweries and more the businesses that adapted and were agile enough to do something different rather than just pouting and staying put and trying to make something, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
And it seemed like Boise's brewery scene went through a major boom before the pandemic. And it seemed like there were lots of breweries popping up. It seemed like the community was able to support them. Are local breweries struggling to stay profitable today, or is maybe this a market correction?
Absolutely. Yeah, they are. And it's even before this tariff thing. And so what's happening now is, there are breweries. There's breweries like Boise Brewing and Payette. Payette recently merged with another brewery in Colorado called Upslope and basically sent their members of their brewing team to Boulder. So even one of our biggest breweries, one of Boise's biggest breweries, has faced this sort of financial, hardship where they had to actually quit brewing beer. They're Upslope now they merged with Upslope. So Upslope brews all their beer. Payette gets a little bit of a territory growth and some other things like that. But now they're just down to basically their tap room in that big building that they bought, 6 or 7 years ago, whenever it was. So there are breweries struggling. Sockeye, you can see with them, they've bought that place on 36th and Hill. That's really cool. If you have a chance to go to their ale house, it's awesome. It's a really cool place. But they've had troubles with that too. They had to rework with the bar area. It was a putt-putt thing. Now it's going to be something different. So Sockeye is trying to be agile. They're trying to do different things. They also have some other cool stuff that they're doing. Like they have a barrel aged club. So you can join a club there and you can get a bunch of their barrel aged beers every, I think, month or every quarter or whatever it is, almost like a wine club. Boise Brewing, they've been in the paper and stuff talking about how they've struggled. And that one is the one that really kind of, if any of them could show you what is happening in the local market, it's Boise Brewing because they make really good beer. They've won GABF medals. They've won World Beer Cup medals. They've won fair ribbons. They've got it all. They have you look at that and you'd be like, that's a great brewery, but they still struggle because they just maybe they aren't able to get enough beer into stores or whatever it is. And it's one of those things also where we live too, right? We don't have real major cities for like 500 miles in every direction or 400 miles in every direction, whatever it is. So we're on an island. A friend of mine called it a nation state, which I love. And so we're kind of this place all by ourselves. So it's really difficult. The more expansion that our local breweries can do, the better they're going to be in the short term and in the long term, especially if they can get sort of a hook in those markets.
So would you say it's not really enough anymore to just brew really good beer or have a really good spot to drink beer? Do you think that these local breweries really have to evolve or find other ways to bring people in and drinking their beer?
Absolutely. Yeah. Boise Brewing is the ultimate example of that, right? So Boise Brewing, they have a new restaurant. The food is really, really good. I don't know if you've been there, but they have these taquitos that are outstanding and they're so good. So their hamburgers are really good. They have this amazing like smash burger kind of concept. Their food is amazing. Their beers, like I said before, they win a bunch of awards. And it's just getting people pulled in and getting people in there. We've seen a real influx of restaurants and bars and clubs and stuff in the Treasure Valley the last 5 years. So there's a lot more competition there used to be, but you have to rise up and you have to meet that competition for sure. And Colin and Lance and those guys at Boise Brewing know that, and they're doing the best they can. I think that there is that kind of thing. I remember when I worked at Edge, we had sort of a neighborhood bar sort of aspect, which I thought was really beneficial to us because not only were we bringing in people from the neighborhood to eat at our restaurant, but they were taking beer to go. They were telling friends about it. Then I would go just around one of my early sort of strategies there was to go around the neighborhood, that neighborhood we were in, kind of in the mall area, and just get taps on everywhere. And I was kind of crazy about it. So old Chicago, I had probably 2 taps there all the time. Some other bars around that area. And
would you say you were like a tap evangelist? You were really just
I would.
preaching the good word.
I would say that. I'd be so mad I didn't come up with it. I was a tap evangelist. That's so nice. Yes, I had a can-do attitude about it. And so, yeah, we had a great time getting beers on in the neighborhood. And then you'd have people come in and they'd be like, oh, I saw whatever, Onomato Pale Ale over there at Old Chicago or Cheesecake Factory or whatever. And that was always a good move for us. Now, with Boise Brewing, their neighborhood just happens to be downtown Boise. So it's a lot more competition down there. We had basically like 2 sushi restaurants in Old Chicago. Were pretty much it. So with Boise Brewing, especially with Broad Street, I mean, they were the first people on Broad Street. They really opened that up. And so a lot of the other restaurants there, I mean, it would be cool if like some of those restaurants would carry Boise Brewing on tap, or they would carry Mother Earth, which is also on that same road. I mean, it would be nice if they had like and I don't know that they don't. I'm just saying that would be a way to kind of help out with Boise Brewing in particular. Just maybe get some taps on right around near their tap house. I mean, it's something that some restaurants kind of don't want to do, but I think it's actually better for the community, better for the neighborhood in general.
So what does this change signal to you when it comes to like Payette Brewing and Boise Brewing that have so much name recognition like in our market, but they're still really having to fight to keep their place?
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it, because these are breweries that do a really good job. They make great beer. And we have a lot of upcoming breweries, too, that are doing really good stuff. So I think that with Payette in particular, that was a move that Mike Francis, the owner, he felt he had to make. And I didn't talk to him on the show about it, but I kind of talked to him off wax about it. And he was just like, yeah, they had an offer. It made sense. We're going to improve some distribution. We're going to lose some people. That sucks. But in the end, I think it'll make us a better company. And so that's a good example of Payette kind of being agile and trying to stick with, their formula while also adapting to something else in this new kind of economy of scale, which is really what we're looking at. Now, can Boise Brewing match that somehow? What can they do to make more money, to produce more beer, whatever it is? Sockeye obviously is trying with the new ale house. They're trying a second location. We'll see how that goes. So I think it's one of those things where they need to meet the reality of competition, which has entered the market in a big way. And they need to decide how they're going to be agile, what they're going to do to sort of match what everyone else is doing. So like Jake had to do at Lost Grove when he had to buy a canner. Like he didn't want to do that, but he did it. So what are you going to do? I mean, what's the next step? Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know the answers for them individually. I'd say generally just keep brewing good beer and finding people to buy it.
Yeah, spread the word.
Yeah, exactly. Be the, what was it, tap evangelist?
Yeah, tap evangelists. We need more tap evangelists.
We certainly do.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Fred Warner, linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. Abercrombie has the new suits you need, plus all the collared shirts to go with them. The Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit is the only suit you'll ever need for any occasion. Available in slim, classic, and athletic. Pair with a collared classic. Go with a soft, easy-to-wear sweater polo or a comfortable long-sleeve shirt. With so many different fits and fabrics, you can make a look that's completely your own. Add the Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit and new collared shirts to every occasion this season. Shop online or in store.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
We've been really focused on some hyper-local issues, what's happening with local breweries, but I'm really curious what you think about some national issues that might be impacting how our local breweries are faring. And one of those is President Trump's tariffs, and that includes a 25% tax on steel and aluminum. How will those tariffs affect Boise breweries?
Man, Lindsay, that is the question, right? So yeah, Trump put these tariffs down. And it was actually kind of it's like a funny little soap opera almost with Canada for some reason. Our neighbor to the north, it's very strange. It's very strange. So the 25% tariff on Canadian steel, that one will hit breweries when they try to expand. So like we're talking about where breweries need to kind of meet the challenge and maybe grow a little bit, that will be more expensive because not only that, but there's also a 10% tariff on anything coming in from China. So then you're looking at 25% for the steel, 10% from China. But with this 25% on aluminum, that means anytime that any of our brewer friends, like at Mother Earth or Sockeye, whoever we're talking about, when they want to get cans, they're going to have to pay basically 25% more on most of the cans they got. So it's not a small deal. I mean, add 25% to that, and it's a number I can't even contemplate. You know what I mean?
Well, and it seems, I mean, from earlier in the conversation where you mentioned a big factor in how breweries are doing or whether they're surviving is their ability to scale and their ability to brew a large amount of their delicious beer in a certain amount of time. And so how much more complicated is that going to be if the steel you need to brew more beer is now 25% more? Like that just seems like it's really going to put them in a bind.
Yeah, no doubt. I guarantee you right now, breweries with the cost of grain, the cost of hops and yeast too, and water. I mean, everything has gone up like crazy, right? So they're already at a point where their margins are already pretty razor thin. So adding this 25% tariff just means that they're going to be charging you more money at the store. Well, maybe not you so much, but me. I'm going to get charged a lot more at the store. So because it's not just the cans, it's also there's lids, there's the steel that's used to make kegs, there's the steel that's used to make all sorts of devices that are used to get beer from the brewery into our refrigerators. So yeah, it's going to be pretty scary. I mean, right now we're seeing $10, $11 six packs at the grocery store pretty regularly. That's going to go up. It's going to be like $13, $14 probably by the end of the year. I mean, it's probably going to be quick. It's not because the distributors are going to see this too. The distributors got to wet their beak. So they're going to look at it like, hey, we got to raise our prices right now for the future cost increase that we're going to have. And then breweries will have to raise their prices as well. So it's like, it's going to be a cascading effect that's going to end up screwing us, the consumer, more than the breweries really, because the breweries will just pass that cost down the line to retail.
Well, and I think some people might say, well, man, that's only like $4 more, $5 more, but they're already competing with the raising prices of everything else. So if your entire grocery bill has gone up, I don't know, $50 or $100, and now it's like, okay, where do I have to cut? That might be a place people choose to cut, which is going to impact these breweries even more.
Well, one thing that's nice about selling beer is that you're recession proof. We've seen that with the pandemic and the recession that we had before that. But it's absolutely right, because now with the price of ground beef and with everything else, you're looking at a real cut. I mean, beer and wine are the first things that people take out of their grocery carts when they're at the checkout and they're trying to decide how much it's going to cost, for sure. It's not great for anybody, really. I don't know who wins here is what I don't know why it's happening. I don't know who wins. Certainly not us at the grocery store. It certainly won't be the brewers with their rising margins and all the different sort of things they're already facing. Like I said, with the rising cost of water, hops, it really makes it hard, to run a business, to make money and to be viable.
And I'm also really curious, Steve, what you think the impact was of the Surgeon General's recent warning that alcohol consumption is the third leading preventable cause of cancer in the U.S. How much do you think that changed consumer habits in Boise? And I know it was just like dry January, so I'm not giving you a lot of time to to see if we're bouncing back. But has it made any kind of a noticeable impact?
I really don't think so. It's like when you told people who smoke cigarettes that cigarettes cause cancer, you're like, well, yeah, of course it causes cancer. I'm breathing. Every single smoker would tell you, yeah, of course it does. I'm breathing fire into my lungs. Drinking alcohol is not good for you. I think it's actually weirder when they come out and say, drinking it is good for you than when it's not good for you. Beer consumption was already going down before that came out. NAs were already becoming very popular since the pandemic. I think people look at it more as like what their sort of consumption is already, and if they want to cut back or if they want to stay the same or however it goes.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
So, Steve, you've talked about how several breweries have closed. This last year was not great for Idaho breweries. What's on the horizon for 2025? Do you expect to see more breweries closing this year?
Will the reckoning continue?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm meeting a lot of the newer brewers right now through my show, through the podcast, and they seem to all have a really good idea of how to make a pretty good product. I haven't been to a brewery or a winery that I've had on my show yet and just been like, ooh, that's a drain pour. Like everything's been really, really solid. And I think when you have a really solid product and you have a really good space, so Ruckus Brewing just opened recently on Chinden. They opened in the old Loose Screw space. And I'll actually talk about Loose Screw too, but they opened up, and the head brewer there and the owner is a guy who's won a bunch of awards at the fair. He's won some collab stuff. I think he did a collaboration with Sockeye. He's a really he's a really kind of known home brewer around Boise and around the Treasure Valley, and his beers are excellent. I likened it to watching an 18-year-old LeBron James play in the NBA for the first time, I think in my column or something like that. It was they were out of this world, like really, really good, especially for a first-time brewer in a commercial brewing. I like to say that brewing is like painting. And if you're a home brewer, you're painting a house. And if you're a professional brewer, you're painting like a mural. It's just it's same paints, two different things. And this guy seems to made the transition from painting houses to painting murals in quite a big way over at Ruckus. So, check them out. Burt's Brewing is another one that recently came in. Those guys are from Orange, California. They opened up and they've done a hell of a job making just amazing, like lighter beers and some IPAs and stuff like that. They do a really awesome job. Their beers are all really tasty. Their marketing is outstanding. They recently got awarded the Treefort beer, so they're going to have the beer at Treefort. It's a hazy pale ale. Then you have some other people that have been around for a little bit longer. There's a lot of breweries that came in when I came in with Edge in 2015 that are reaching sort of their 10-year anniversary, and I think they're going strong. I mean, we just had Bree from Barbarian on. She was awesome. She talked all about how they've been able to not only stay in business, but to expand. They recently, I think 2 years ago, moved to their new giant, beautiful brewery also on Chinden. Chinden, what up?
Chinden's kind of the spot.
Garden City is really making a play to be like the sort of craft artisan place or street of the Treasure Valley for sure. So, and then Loose Screw, they recently bought a building or leased a building in Meridian, downtown Meridian. So they went from that little building that Ruckus is now in to this big new building there in downtown Meridian. And they've got a brand new brewery set up. They bought it before the Tariffs, which was nice. And they are making some really killer beers too. Like I think a lot of these new breweries that popped up the last 3 or 4 years are setting themselves up for success, not only because they're brewing good beer, but because they have enough space, they have enough tank space to brew enough beer for however many people want to buy it, which, as we said before, was a major thing with some of the breweries that went out of business.
So let's end with something to toast to. You mentioned several of these breweries that are just killing it. They're expanding. They're really just going for it and bringing some great beer to the community. So what's your favorite local beer at the moment? Who's brewing something really delicious right now that you just can't get enough of?
Oh, that's a tough question. I really, like I said before with Burt's, some of their stuff, their Pilsner, I have in my fridge pretty much all the time. And that's really where the market is kind of going right now. So a lot of lighter beers are being brewed. They're really delicious. They're really easy to drink. Man, Sockeye, that Italian Pils that they make, really, really good. Let's see. Who else do I like right now? Barbarian had a little Pilsner on tap that was really tasty. Lost Grove is doing great with their IPA series. They're doing some really killer IPAs right now that we're sort of missing since Woodland has sort of stopped making them. And so we're seeing more from Lost Grove now. And then Boise Brewing. I mean, anytime I see Black Cliffs, their award-winning stout, anytime I see that on draft, I'm getting that every time. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I would recommend being not as eclectic as me maybe, but being pretty eclectic in your choices. And I think even you, Lindsay, we could get into some of these beers. Burt's has a new sour out right now that's really tasty. It's a cherry sour. It's super light and refreshing. It's not super sour. It's like tart, kind of like a sweet tart. I think that might be something that might interest you if you're into cocktails. I heard you probably like yourself a little cocktail every now and then.
Yeah, I would say a little cocktail. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little happy where you're like, oh, it's the Pilsners and less of the IPAs, because a Pilsner and a lager is kind of where I've been at. And so my struggle with the craft brew has been like, it's a whole lot of IPAs and I kind of struggle with that. So I am excited to try some of these Pilsners you're recommending.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to head out with me on a Wednesday or Thursday is when I do my research for my column and for my podcast. So anytime you want to come out with me and we'll find you some nice crispy boys to snack on. There's a lot of good ones out there for sure.
Perfect. I'll definitely take you up on that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and kind of break down what's going on with the local brewery scene.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with an insider's look at Treefort behind the music. You won't want to miss it.